Maya Rodriguez stood before her bedroom mirror, the morning light filtering through her small apartment window in Echo Park, casting shadows that seemed to emphasize every imperfection on her skin. The port wine-stained birthmark spread from her left temple down to her jawline like spilled wine on canvas, a masterpiece that society had taught her to see as a mistake. "You can do this," she whispered to her reflection, her fingers tracing the familiar texture of her skin. At 25, Maya had perfected the art of strategic makeup application, but today felt different. Today, she wanted to try something new. Her phone buzzed with a text from her best friend Jessica. "Remember, that interview at Universal is huge. You've worked so hard for this opportunity. Treat yourself to something special first. You deserve it." Maya smiled, remembering how Jessica had insisted she book the appointment at Lux Skin Beverly Hills. "It's where all the celebrities go," Jessica had said. "They'll make you feel like a queen before your big day." The business card lay on her dresser, elegant and pristine. Lux Skin Beverly Hills, where beauty meets perfection. The irony wasn't lost on her. For years, she'd avoided such places, knowing the uncomfortable stares, the hesitation in people's voices when they spoke to her. But today was different. Today, she was Maya Rodriguez, the woman who'd climbed from production assistant to being considered for assistant director at one of Hollywood's biggest studios. Today, she refused to let her insecurities win. She grabbed her keys and purse, pausing only to look once more at the mirror. "The mirror doesn't lie," she said quietly, "but maybe it doesn't tell the whole truth either." The drive to Beverly Hills felt like crossing into another dimension. Her beat-up Honda Civic looked out of place among the Tesla and Mercedes vehicles lining the pristine streets. Palm trees swayed gently in the California breeze, and everything seemed to sparkle under the perfect sunshine. As she parked outside the spa, Maya's heart began to race. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, she could see the sterile, white interior, soft lighting, and women who looked like they'd stepped out of magazines. A knot formed in her stomach. "Just breathe," she told herself, checking her makeup one final time in the rearview mirror. "You belong here as much as anyone else." The automatic doors opened with a soft whoosh, releasing the scent of eucalyptus and lavender. Maya approached the reception desk, where a young woman with porcelain skin and perfect teeth greeted her with a practiced smile. "Good morning. How can I help you today?" "I have an appointment at 11. Maya Rodriguez." The receptionist's eyes flickered briefly to Maya's birthmark before returning to her computer screen. "Of course, please have a seat. Sandra will be with you shortly." Maya settled into a plush white chair, surrounded by other women who seemed to exist in a world where imperfection was optional. She picked up a magazine, but the words blurred together as her anxiety mounted. This was supposed to be her day of self-care, her moment of preparation for the biggest opportunity of her career. Minutes ticked by slowly. Maya watched as other clients were called back, women who had arrived after her disappearing through frosted glass doors. The knot in her stomach tightened with each passing moment, and she began to wonder if coming here had been a mistake after all. Maya Rodriguez? A woman in her 40s emerged from the back rooms, her white coat pristine and her expression professionally neutral. Sandra Williams had built her reputation on transforming Hollywood's elite, her hands considered magical by those who could afford her services. Maya stood up, smoothing down her dress nervously. "That's me. Thank you so much for fitting me in today." Sandra's eyes immediately went to Maya's birthmark, and Maya watched as something shifted in the woman's demeanor. The warm smile faltered, replaced by a tight-lipped expression that Maya had seen countless times before. "Follow me," Sandra said curtly, leading Maya down a hallway lined with photos of flawless faces, before and after, shots of transformations that seemed almost miraculous. They entered a small consultation room with a leather chair facing a mirror surrounded by bright lights. Sandra gestured for Maya to sit, but remained standing herself, maintaining distance. "So," Sandra began, pulling out a tablet, "what brings you in today?" Maya's excitement bubbled over despite her growing unease. "I have this huge job interview tomorrow. Well, today actually, this afternoon, at Universal Studios. I'm up for an assistant director position, which would be incredible for my career. I just wanted to treat myself to something special, maybe a facial or whatever you recommend to help me feel confident and glowing." Sandra nodded absently, making notes on her tablet. "I see. And have you been to an esthetician before?" "Not really," Maya admitted. "I've always been pretty low maintenance, but this opportunity is so important to me. My friend Jessica recommended this place highly." Sandra set down her tablet and moved closer, studying Maya's face with clinical detachment. The silence stretched uncomfortably as Sandra examined the birthmark, her expression growing more concerned. "Miss Rodriguez," Sandra finally said, stepping back, "I'm going to be honest with you. Your condition is quite extensive. What you're dealing with here isn't something that can be addressed with a standard facial treatment." Maya's heart sank. "What do you mean?" "This type of skin irregularity requires specialized medical attention. I'd recommend you consult with a dermatologist, perhaps someone who specializes in laser therapy or cosmetic surgery. We simply don't have the equipment or expertise to handle cases like yours safely." The words hit Maya like physical blows. "Cases like yours." The phrase echoed in her mind, each repetition more painful than the last. "But I just wanted a facial," Maya said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I wasn't asking you to fix anything. I just wanted to feel pampered before my interview." Sandra's expression softened slightly, but her decision remained firm. "I understand, but I have a responsibility to my clients and my business. I could cause more harm than good, and frankly, I'm not comfortable proceeding. There are other establishments that might be better equipped for your needs." Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks, the kind that had nothing to do with embarrassment and everything to do with humiliation. She stood up slowly, gathering her purse with hands that trembled slightly. "I see," Maya said, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "Thank you for your honesty." She walked out of that room with her head held high, but inside she was crumbling. The receptionist avoided eye contact as Maya passed, and the other clients seemed to stare as she made her way to the exit. The Beverly Hills sunshine felt harsh now, almost mocking. Maya sat in her car for several minutes, staring at the spa through her windshield. She thought about calling Jessica, about crying, about driving home and hiding under her covers. Instead, she started the engine. She had an interview to get to, a dream job waiting for her. Whatever confidence she'd lost in that sterile room, she'd have to find elsewhere. Maya sat in her car outside the spa, tears threatening to spill over as she stared at her reflection in the rearview mirror. The interview was in 3 hours, and instead of feeling pampered and confident, she felt smaller than ever. She pulled out her phone to call Jessica, but stopped herself. What would she say? That she'd been right all along, to avoid these places. Taking a deep breath, Maya decided to walk around Beverly Hills for a few minutes to clear her head. Maybe the fresh air would help her regain some composure before the biggest interview of her life. As she stepped onto the sidewalk, she noticed someone crouched near a street vendor, camera in hand. The man was photographing an elderly woman selling handmade jewelry, capturing the way the light hit her weathered hands as she arranged her wares. There was something gentle about the way he moved, respectful and patient. Maya watched for a moment, intrigued by his focus. The photographer was Asian American, probably in his early 30s, wearing a simple grey t-shirt and jeans. His camera looked professional but worn, clearly well used and loved. She was so absorbed in observing him work that she didn't notice when he finished and turned around. Their eyes met across the sidewalk, and Maya felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment at being caught staring. "Sorry!" she called out, starting to walk away quickly. "Wait," he said, standing up and approaching her with a warm smile. "You don't need to apologize. I'm James, by the way. James Chen." "Maya?" she replied hesitantly, instinctively turning her left side away from him to hide her birthmark. But James didn't seem to notice her self-consciousness. Instead, his eyes lit up with genuine interest. "The light right now is absolutely incredible," he said, gesturing to the way the afternoon sun was filtering through the palm trees. "It's that perfect golden hour photographers dream about." Maya looked around, seeing the ordinary Beverly Hills street through his eyes for a moment. "I never really pay attention to lighting," she admitted. "Most people don't," James said, adjusting his camera strap. "But light tells stories. It can make the ordinary extraordinary, reveal beauty that people usually overlook." He paused, studying her face with an artist's eye. "Speaking of which, would you mind if I took a few photos of you? The way the light is hitting your face right now is absolutely stunning." Maya's hand instinctively went to her cheek, covering part of her birthmark. "I don't think I'm really photogenic," she said quickly. "I'm not model material or anything." James tilted his head, looking genuinely confused. "Model material? Who decides what that means?" He lowered his camera and spoke more seriously. "I've been doing street photography for years, documenting real people living real lives. The most beautiful photos I've ever taken have been of people who thought they weren't photogenic. But my skin," Maya started to say. "What about your skin?" James interrupted gently. "You mean the birthmark? That's part of what makes you striking. It's unique. It's yours. It's beautiful." Maya stared at him, searching his face for any sign of pity or false kindness. But all she saw was genuine artistic enthusiasm and something else she rarely encountered when discussing her appearance: excitement. "I don't know," she said uncertainly. "I just came out of a really horrible experience in there," she gestured toward the spa, "and I have this important interview later, and I'm feeling pretty awful about myself right now." "What happened?" James asked, his expression softening with concern. Maya found herself telling him about Sandra's rejection, about feeling like she wasn't worthy of basic self-care, about the years of learning to hide and apologize for her appearance. James listened without interrupting, his face growing more troubled with each detail. "That's absolutely inexcusable," he said when she finished. "That woman has no idea what she's talking about. Beauty isn't about fitting into some narrow, ridiculous standard. It's about authenticity, about the stories written on our faces, about the light that comes from within." Maya felt something shift inside her chest, a tiny crack in the wall she'd built around her heart. "So," James said, raising his camera again, "what do you say? 5 minutes, just a few shots. I promise you'll see yourself differently." Maya looked into his kind eyes and made a decision that would change everything. "Okay," she whispered, "but only 5 minutes. Just be yourself," James said softly, adjusting his camera settings as Maya stood awkwardly on the sidewalk. "Forget I'm here. Think about something that makes you happy." Maya tried to relax, but 25 years of hiding had made natural poses feel impossible. She turned her good side toward the camera, angling herself the way she'd learned to do in every photo since middle school. "Wait," James said, lowering his camera. "Can you turn back toward me? Full face?" "I'd rather not," Maya said quickly. "Trust me, it looks better this way." James stepped closer, speaking gently but firmly. "Maya, I need you to trust me here. You've been hiding for so long that you don't even know how beautiful you are when you're not hiding." "This isn't hiding," Maya protested. "This is just my better angle." "Says who?" James challenged. "The same society that told you that woman in there had the right to reject you. The same people who made you believe you need to apologize for your face." Maya felt tears threatening again. "You don't understand what it's like. People stare. They look away. They treat me differently." Some people do," James agreed, "but not everyone, and definitely not me." He showed her the back of his camera, scrolling through photos he'd taken of the jewelry vendor. "Look at Mrs. Chen here. No relation, by the way. She's 78 years old. Her hands are weathered from decades of work, and most people would walk right past her. But look," Maya studied the photos on the small screen. The elderly woman's face was lined and aged, but in James's photos, she looked dignified, wise, beautiful in a way Maya had never noticed. "See how the light catches the lines around her eyes when she smiles? Those lines tell the story of a life fully lived. They're not flaws. They're evidence of joy, of laughter, of a person who's experienced the full spectrum of human emotion. Maya looked at the photos again, beginning to understand what James was trying to show her. Your birthmark isn't a flaw, Maya. It's part of your story. It's part of what makes you uniquely, absolutely you. James raised his camera again. Now, can you try to see yourself the way I see you? Not as someone who needs to hide, but as someone whose face tells an incredible story of strength and resilience? Maya took a deep breath, thinking about her upcoming interview, about all the work she'd done to get to this moment. She thought about the years of proving herself twice as hard as everyone else, of developing skills and talents that had nothing to do with her appearance. Okay, she said, turning to face him fully. But if these come out terrible, you're buying me coffee to make up for it. James grinned. Deal? Now tell me about this interview you're so nervous about. As Maya began talking about her work at the studio, about her dreams of directing, about the specific project she hoped to join, James started shooting. But he did it so naturally while maintaining conversation that Maya forgot to be self-conscious. You light up when you talk about your work, James observed, continuing to capture frames. Your whole face changes. There, right there. That passion, that intelligence, that's what makes you beautiful. Maya found herself laughing at something James said about Hollywood politics, and she heard the camera click at that exact moment. Can I see? She asked tentatively. James hesitated. Are you sure? Sometimes seeing ourselves the way others see us can be jarring. Maya nodded, and James turned the camera toward her. The image on the screen took her breath away. It was her, unmistakably her, but she looked confident, radiant, alive. The birthmark wasn't hidden or minimized. It was simply part of a face that looked strong and beautiful and real. That's me, she whispered. That's you, James confirmed. That's you when you forget to hide. For the first time in years, Maya looked at a photo of herself and didn't immediately focus on what was wrong with it. Instead, she saw her eyes bright with intelligence, her smile genuine and warm, her entire being radiating the confidence she'd been building internally for years, but had never allowed to show externally. I have to go, she said suddenly, checking her watch. My interview... Of course, James said, but Maya, go to that interview exactly like this. Don't hide, don't apologize. Show them the woman I just photographed. Maya arrived at Universal Studios 30 minutes early, her mind still reeling from the photo session with James. She sat in her car in the parking lot, pulling up the photos he'd texted her on her phone. Each time she looked at them, she saw something different. Not the flaws she'd been trained to focus on, but the strength James had somehow captured. Her phone rang. Jessica's name appeared on the screen. How did the spa go? Jessica asked excitedly. Are you glowing like a goddess? Maya paused, considering how to explain the morning's events. It didn't go as planned, she said finally, but I think I'm glowing anyway. What happened? I'll tell you everything later. Right now, I need to get my head in the game for this interview. You've got this, Maya. Remember, they called you because they want what you have to offer. Maya walked through the studio gates with her head held higher than it had been in years. The security guard smiled at her warmly, and for once, she smiled back without self-consciousness. The waiting area outside the conference room was intimidating. Glass walls, modern furniture, and several other candidates who looked like they'd stepped out of entertainment industry magazines. Maya felt the familiar urge to shrink into herself, but James's voice echoed in her mind. That's you, when you forget to hide. Maya Rodriguez. A woman in her 50s approached, extending her hand. I'm Linda Morrison, the executive producer. Thank you so much for coming in. Maya stood, shaking Linda's hand firmly. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm excited to discuss the project. As they walked into the conference room, Maya noticed Linda's eyes briefly take in her appearance, but there was no judgment there, just professional assessment. I have to say, Linda began as they settled into chairs around a large table, your work on the Martinez film last year was exceptional. The way you coordinated that complex multi-location shoot while staying under budget was exactly the kind of problem-solving we need for this project. Maya felt her confidence building. This was her element, discussing work, strategy, creative solutions. Thank you. That project taught me a lot about managing resources while maintaining creative integrity. 2 more executives joined them. David Park, the director, and Sarah Thompson, the head of production. Maya noticed how naturally she maintained eye contact, how easily she engaged with each of them. Walk us through your approach to handling a cast of 50 extras across 3 different time periods, David said, leaning forward with interest. Maya dove into the details, describing her systematic approach to period authenticity, actor coordination, and schedule optimization. She could see the executives nodding, taking notes, clearly impressed by her thorough preparation and innovative solutions. What about challenges? Sarah asked. Every project has them. How do you handle setbacks? Maya thought about the morning's experience at the spa, about years of navigating a world that often tried to make her invisible. I've learned that setbacks often reveal opportunities we hadn't considered, she said. When conventional approaches don't work, you have to get creative. You have to find new ways to achieve your goals that might actually be better than the original plan. Something in her tone caught Linda's attention. The producer studied Maya's face more carefully, and Maya felt the familiar flutter of anxiety. But instead of turning away or making excuses, she held Linda's gaze steadily. You know, Linda said thoughtfully, this project deals with themes of authenticity and resilience. We need someone who understands those concepts, not just intellectually, but personally. Maya felt her heart racing, but not with fear this time, with possibility. I believe authenticity is the foundation of all great storytelling, Maya said. When we stop trying to hide who we are and start embracing it, that's when real connection happens, between characters, between storytellers and audiences, between people. David and Sarah exchanged a look. Linda smiled broadly. Maya, we've interviewed 12 candidates for this position, Linda said. You're the first one who's talked about authenticity as if it actually means something to you personally. Maya left the studio 2 hours later with a job offer, a start date, and a sense of accomplishment that had nothing to do with her appearance and everything to do with her capabilities. But more importantly, she left knowing that she'd shown up as herself, completely, unapologetically herself, and had been not just accepted, but valued for it. As she walked to her car, her phone buzzed with a text from James. How did the interview go? I hope you showed them the same light I captured today. Maya smiled, typing back, I got the job, and I think I'm starting to see that light myself. 3 weeks into her new position at Universal, Maya was thriving in ways she'd never imagined possible. The job was challenging and demanding, but she approached each day with a confidence that surprised everyone, including herself. More importantly, she was approaching each day as herself. Her phone buzzed during her lunch break. James's name appeared on the screen. Maya, I hope you don't mind me calling, but I have some news about those photos. Of course not, Maya said, settling onto a bench in the studio's garden area. What's going on? Remember how I mentioned I was working on a project about diversity and authentic beauty? Well, I've been curating a collection of portraits, and yours are some of the most powerful images I've captured. I'd love to include them in an exhibition I'm planning. Maya's stomach fluttered with nerves. An exhibition? Like where people would see them? That's generally how exhibitions work, James said with gentle humor. But seriously, Maya, these photos could make a real impact. There's something about your story, your journey to self-acceptance, that I think would resonate with a lot of people. Before Maya could respond, she noticed a young woman sitting alone at a nearby table. The girl couldn't have been more than 19, and she was holding a compact mirror, applying concealer to what appeared to be a large scar across her cheek. Maya watched the girl's furtive glances around the courtyard, the way she angled herself away from other people, the careful precision with which she tried to hide something that was clearly a source of deep shame. James, Maya said softly, Let me call you back. She approached the young woman's table carefully. Excuse me, I'm sorry to bother you. I'm Maya. I work here at the studio. Are you waiting for someone? The girl looked up, immediately turning her face away from Maya. Oh, hi. Yes, I'm interning in the costume department this summer, just grabbing lunch. Mind if I join you? I hate eating alone. The intern nodded hesitantly, and Maya sat down across from her. Up close, she could see that the scar was from what looked like a recent surgery, still pink and healing. I'm Emma, the girl said quietly, still positioned to hide her face. Nice to meet you, Emma. How are you liking the internship so far? It's amazing, but Emma's voice trailed off. It's hard being around all these perfect people all the time. Everyone here looks like they belong in front of the cameras, you know? Maya felt her heart ache with recognition. Can I tell you something, Emma? 3 weeks ago, I got rejected from a spa in Beverly Hills. The esthetician told me she couldn't treat me because my skin condition was too complex for her to handle safely. Emma looked up in surprise, and for the first time, Maya could see the full extent of the scar, and also the beautiful, expressive eyes that Emma had been hiding. Really? Emma asked. Really? I walked out of there feeling like I was too flawed to deserve basic human kindness. But then something interesting happened. Maya pulled out her phone, showing Emma one of James's photos. I met a photographer who helped me see myself differently. Emma stared at the photo. That's you. You look so confident, so beautiful. That's me being authentically me. Instead of trying to hide parts of myself I'd been taught to be ashamed of. Maya spent the next 20 minutes telling Emma about her journey, about the interview where she'd finally shown up as herself, about the success that had followed when she stopped apologizing for her appearance. But what if people stare? Emma asked, the question Maya had asked herself 1,000 times. Some people will, Maya said honestly, but the right people, the people worth knowing, they'll see you, not your scar. And more importantly, when you stop hiding, you start living. By the end of their conversation, Emma had stopped angling her face away. She was sitting naturally, speaking animatedly about her passion for costume design and her dreams for the future. That evening, Maya called James back. About that exhibition, she said, I want to do it, but I have one condition. What's that? I want to be involved in finding other people to include. People who, like me, have been taught to hide parts of themselves. I want to help tell their stories too. James was quiet for a moment. Maya, that's brilliant. That would take this project from being just about photography to being about transformation, about community. Exactly. Because that photo you took of me, it didn't just change how I see myself. Today, it helped a young woman start her own journey towards self-acceptance. That's the real power of authentic representation. When can we start? James asked. Maya smiled, looking out her apartment window at the city lights of Los Angeles. We already have. 6 months later, the Authentic Beauty exhibition opened at a gallery in downtown Los Angeles. Maya stood near the entrance, greeting visitors as they arrived for the opening night reception. She wore a simple black dress and minimal makeup, her birthmark clearly visible and completely unashamed. Emma approached, no longer the shy intern Maya had met in the studio courtyard. The young woman radiated confidence, her scar now just one feature among many that made up her distinctive face. I can't believe we actually did this, Emma said, gesturing toward the gallery walls lined with James's photographs. We did more than we planned, Maya replied, watching as people moved through the space, stopping to read the stories accompanying each portrait. The exhibition featured 30 individuals, people of different ages, backgrounds, and physical variations who had all been taught at some point to hide aspects of themselves. There was Marcus, a veteran with prosthetic limbs, who had stopped wearing long sleeves to cover them. Sarah, a woman with vitiligo, who had given up using makeup to camouflage her skin. David, a man with Down syndrome who had been told he wasn't professional enough for client-facing work, but now ran his own successful business. Each photograph was accompanied by a brief story, not about overcoming disability or difference, but about embracing authenticity and finding success, love, and happiness without compromise. Maya noticed Sandra Williams from the spa standing in front of her photograph, reading her story with a troubled expression. Sandra looked up, and their eyes met across the gallery. Maya walked over calmly. "Hello, Sandra." "Maya," Sandra said, her voice subdued. I read your story about what happened at my spa." "And?" Sandra was quiet for a long moment, looking back at the photograph. "I was wrong. I was completely, utterly wrong. I let my own narrow ideas about beauty cloud my judgment and my professionalism." "Yes, you did," Maya said simply, without anger but without absolution either. "I've been thinking a lot about that day since I saw the exhibition announcement in the paper," Sandra continued. "I realize I've probably turned away other clients over the years, people who just wanted to feel good about themselves because they didn't fit my idea of the right kind of client." Maya studied Sandra's face, seeing genuine remorse there. "What are you going to do about it?" "I've enrolled in some diversity and inclusion training. I'm working with a consultant to revamp our policies and staff training. And," Sandra paused, "I'd like to offer you a complimentary service. Whatever you'd like, whenever you'd like it. Not to fix anything, but to provide the experience you should have had in the first place." Maya considered the offer. "I appreciate that, but I found someone who makes me feel beautiful exactly as I am." She gestured toward James, who was across the room photographing visitors' reactions to the exhibition. "Of course," Sandra said, "but Maya, thank you for this, for showing me how wrong I was, and for helping me become better." As Sandra walked away, James approached Maya. "How does it feel?" he asked, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. Maya looked around the gallery, at the faces in the photographs, at the visitors reading stories and having conversations about beauty and acceptance, at Emma confidently discussing her work with a group of costume designers who had come to support her. "It feels like the beginning," Maya said. "Not the end of something, but the start of something much bigger." Linda Morrison from Universal approached them, beaming with pride. "Maya, this is incredible. The studio wants to discuss developing a documentary about the project. Are you interested in directing it?" Maya felt a surge of excitement, but also something deeper, a sense of purpose that went beyond personal achievement. "Only if we can expand it," she said. "Include more voices, more stories. Show people that authentic beauty isn't about being perfect. It's about being courageously, unapologetically yourself." As the evening wound down, Maya stood alone for a moment in front of her photograph. The woman looking back at her from James's lens was the same woman who had been rejected from a spa 6 months ago, but she was also completely transformed. Not physically. Her birthmark was as prominent as ever, but in every way that mattered. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. "Saw the article about the exhibition in the LA Times. So proud of you. You've always been beautiful, but now you're helping other people see their own beauty too." Maya smiled, typing back, "Turns out that esthetician did me a favor. She refused to touch my skin, but in trying to hide my glow, she helped me find it." The gallery lights dimmed as the last visitors left, but Maya knew this was just the beginning. Tomorrow, she'd start work on the documentary. Next month, they'd take the exhibition to other cities, but tonight she stood in a room full of authentic faces and authentic stories, knowing that sometimes the most beautiful transformations happen not when we change who we are, but when we finally have the courage to be who we've always been. The photographer had captured her glow, but Maya had learned something even more valuable. The glow had been there all along, waiting for her to stop hiding it and start sharing it with the world.